you need to be using the Slick Spoon if you aren't already. It's a spoon that's incredibly slick. It is also one of the most undercover, overpowered items inside of Pokemon Unite. I think the biggest reason we're not talking about it is we're talking about Zacian and Comfey. So please nerf them so that we can talk about how crazy Slick Spoon is. Thank you. Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw. And in this video, I'm going to show you why the Slick Spoon is so amazing. I'm going to tell you some really interesting things about it, things that you might not actually notice that make it even better. And then I'm also going to tell you every single Pokemon that it works well on, and I'm going to count all the way up to 3. 1, 2, 2. I got so close. First, let's go over the basics of Slick Spoon. It gives you extra HP, 210 at level 30, and extra special attack, 30 at level 30. 1 for each level. It also makes the damage that you deal to opposing Pokemon ignore a percentage of their special defense. At level 20, it is 20%. Most held items you can get to level 20 and not worry about getting to level 30. That's not the biggest difference in the world. The big difference are the big breakpoints at 10 and 20. I would recommend definitely getting this item and most of your held items that you use a lot to level 20. We're going to talk a little bit about the math behind this item, and before you run away and click to another video that doesn't talk about math, just understand that I don't want to do this any more than you want to do this. I'm just trying to help you with this, okay? I'm not the best person to figure out all the math, all right? I'm not this. I'm more like this.
Let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
I have to give a big shout out to everyone over at the Unite Math Court and Unite DB, as well as especially Evo, the TTV analyst and amazing Pokemon Unite player in their own right, who held my hand and walked me through a lot of this. I really appreciate it. I'll also have a link to what we're looking at right now in the description of this video. These are the hidden mechanics section over on Unite DB, and it can tell you how damage is calculated inside Pokemon Unite. The basics are something with attack damage goes against physical defense, something with special attack damage goes against special defense, and then you can see the formulation here for how that is calculated. The Slick Spoon takes this formulation and times it by 0.8. Without going into every situation and comparing it to every item, in general, Slick Spoon is amazing for the amount of defenses that it can penetrate on enemies, especially tanks. Let's talk about tanks. You see, the interesting thing about being a mage inside Pokemon Unite, or a special attacker that attacks at range, is you are often hitting the tankiest Pokemon on the enemy team, because if your enemy is playing in a way that makes any sense at all, they have their tankiest characters frontlining and taking a majority of the damage. Those characters also happen to have the most special defense. As we look at our list here, we see Goodra has 500 special defense, Wigglytuff 482, Snorlax 440, Trevenant 421. All of these numbers are huge special defense numbers, and this makes your item even more valuable because now as a special attacker, you can actually chip away at these very, very tanky Pokemon. Again, these are often the Pokemon that a majority of your special attack is going to be thrown into, your Mystical Fires and your Psyshocks and things like that. You're most often going to hit these frontline Pokemon that have high special defenses. So because of that, you get even more value out of a spoon that is so incredibly slick. Now, while Pokemon down here at the bottom of the list don't have super high special defenses, this item is still going to ignore a portion of their defenses and give you some extra special attack. And an interesting thing, wild Pokemon inside the game have a base special defense stat of 250, so it actually helps you deal more damage to wild Pokemon as well. So we took a brief look at how defenses work, and I mean brief, okay? I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. It's 600 plus your defense over 600 divided. There's division, all right? What do you want from me? Now let's talk about what Pokemon this item works well on, and a few that you think it would, but actually don't. I should have said actually doesn't. Alright, let's start off with our defenders inside Pokemon Unite that are special attackers. Blastoise is a great one to start with. Blastoise can actually use Slick Spoon on many of its builds. It works great for the Rapid Spin build. I still think stacking on this build is impressive and amazing, so you might want to actually do both, and Surf Hydro Pump gets a lot of value from a Slick Spoon. Not only that, Blastoise is frontlining, so a little extra HP goes a long way. For Slowbro, it is a little more questionable because a lot of the time you're going to be tanking with this Pokemon and not doing a ton of damage. I think on the Scald build, because your cooldown's very low, you will probably get a lot of value out of this spoon. You do a ton of damage with this build. With the Surf build, you might actually want to just focus more on tankiness because that build is more about disrupting the enemy than damage. That being said, it's extra damage, it's penetration, and it's more health. Great for these defenders. And speaking of defenders, let's talk a little bit about Goodra. I'm not sure exactly where the best Goodra build is going to fall, but I feel like Slick Spoon is an awesome choice for this Pokemon as well. It's really probably going to be great for Lapras also, by the way. I know we're not on to Lapras yet, but once Lapras comes out, I think this item could be very, very good. In general, these all benefit from the extra HP, and the penetration is nice on all of their moves. Goodra might actually do better just focusing on stacking, so having a Focus Band, Eos Cookie, maybe even special attack specs, but I think you could slide a Slick Spoon in there and do very, very well. Now that we've talked about our defenders, let's talk about our supporters inside Pokemon Unite. Most all of them are special attack based. Let's start with Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is one that you probably don't want to run a Slick Spoon on. You can, but the damage is not really the reason you're running Wigglytuff at all. I don't think you need to do this. I would much rather have you focus on keeping this Pokemon very, very tanky. Mr. Mime, on the other hand, if you're going for a damage build, I could absolutely see you slotting this item in. I would probably swap out something like Choice Specs. You know, the real question is, where does it line up math-wise? I think I would probably do Stacking Specs, Wise Glasses, and then a Slick Spoon. Choice Specs might be a little bit better, but it's going to be very, very close. If you're going full damage with Mime, I could see you doing this. Otherwise, I would build mine very, very tanky. Hoopa is a really interesting Pokemon. I think Experience Share is an absolute must on pretty much every supporter inside the game right now. And then you have to deal with the fact that Hoopa's basics are just so amazing. I personally love the Rapid Fire Scarf and Muscle Band for this Pokemon. That being said, I think if you want to go full damage, you could try something like this Slick Spoon. However, it's really hard to move one of these items out because they're all so good on this Pokemon. Blissey, you don't need an item like this at all. You can definitely stack on Blissey for some extra healing, but I don't think Slick Spoon is really necessary on this Pokemon at all. You don't need it. You're more about the healing. That doesn't help with any of the penetration or anything like that. I think stacking on this, very, very strong. And then of course, things like Experience Share, Buddy Barrier, Energy Amp for its Unite move, all very good. For Clefable, if you're going full damage Clefable using the Kiss Me build, there's probably a case to be made that Slick Spoon and stacking is actually pretty strong on this Pokemon. However, I do think that build in general is just extremely cheesy. It's fun, but let's face it, this is not why you have a Clefable on your team. It's to heal your allies, and for that you would not want Slick Spoon. For me, Eldegoss is very similar to Hoopa. I want both basic attack items because LD's basic attacks are absolutely absurd, and then after that I want to be running Experience Share. It's just too good to pass up. I think this item set is amazing on Eldegoss. You could run a special attack build, but I don't know. I don't really prefer it on this Pokemon. Comfey, absolutely not. Has nothing to do with Comfey does. You do not need to run this item. No, don't do it. Don't do it. This is one of the few Pokemon that could actually run a Rescue Hood, and I do need to make a video about the Rescue Hood. Now let's talk about our Speedster. One Speedster. Gengar is the only special attack Speedster inside of Pokemon Unite, and I actually thought you'd be running Slick Spoon on both builds, but I did get shown by Evo that, you know, when you're using the Shadow Ball build, it already reduces such an absurd amount of the enemy special defense that you don't actually need anything extra lowering their defenses, which I was surprised to find out. I still think you could probably get a little bit of value from it. It's some extra special attack, but you actually don't need it if you're running the Shadow Ball build because you are already draining away so much special defense. So Hex build, definitely. Shadow Ball build, the math geniuses say no. They say no. Cramorant, abso-frickin-lutely. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Honestly, it's so good on Cram. It's good on both Cram builds. Don't nerf Cram, but wow, it's so good on Cramorant. And I'm realizing as I talked about Cramorant, we are now into the attackers. Boy, Speedsters was fast. Here we are in the attacker category. Delphox is an absolutely for this item. Delphox is always attacking at extreme range, hitting a ton of high special defense enemies. This is an amazing item for Delphox. You'd probably swap out choice specs for it. Espeon, you better freaking believe that Espeon wants to be running a Slick Spoon. It's amazing. The build that Unite DB is recommending is Choice Wise Slick. Keep it slick, don't try to stack on an Espeon. Gardevoir is an interesting one because Psychic does shred some special defense from enemies, but even still, this is just an amazing item for Gardevoir. You are attacking so much at insane range. It's just so good for this Pokemon. It's why Guardy is doing so well in the meta right now. For Glaceon, both builds actually take great advantage of this Slick Spoon. They do insane special attack damage all the time. This Pokemon is a definite for this item. Mew, absolutely. The question is, how does this compare to stacking on Mew? And I know I did get to see a chart where it was shown to me, and the answer is it compares very, very well, especially as Mew continues to scale. I don't have the chart right now. You're just gonna have to believe me, but it's something like at a high level, you would have to have all 6 stacks to even compare to a spoon. So you would be dropping your stacking on Mew and going for the wise choice spoon. The wise choice spoon. Now for Alola Ninetales, I mean, let's face it, Alola Ninetales is having some trouble in the game right now. Definitely if you're running the Blizzard build, you can use this. And I'm also being told it works well on the Dazzling Gleam build because the Aurora Veil sets up all your attacks to be boosted. All those attacks are special defense, or all those attacks target special defense, I should say, because they are now special attack once they are boosted. So you actually get a lot of value here. I'll still never not love running critical hits on this build, but the math geniuses say it's better. Math geniuses, what do they know? Pikachu, yes, yes. Oh, Pikachu's so good with this item. It's just great. It's great for Pikachu. Sylveon's one of the more interesting Pokemon because it actually has a lot of builds. You've kind of got that Muscle Band Razor Claw build on Sylveon for Mystical Fire. You also have this weird situation with its Hyper Voice where it shreds special defense. So the thought is it's actually not really as good as doing something like stacking on this Pokemon. You actually wouldn't want to run it on Hyper Voice. However, I've been running it on the Mystical Fire build and I think it's amazing. I like it more than running the Muscle Band and Razor Claw. I like running the spoon on that build instead, focusing more on special attack. I think it's really good. And our final attacker, Venusaur. On the Solar Beam build, the answer is yes. Get a spoon in there. You know what? Get 2 spoons in there. Hi, this is a quick PSA just to let you know that you cannot have 2 spoons on a single character. Don't try to do this at home. It will not work. You will end up with 1 spoon and be very, very sad. So yes, the Solar Beam build is a definite, and I actually don't know if the Petal Dance Giga Drain build would work well with Spoon. The math geniuses are saying it's probably not ideal because you're still going to want to run a Muscle Band, you're still going to want to run a Rapid Fire Scarf at one of the 2, and then otherwise you would be running an Energy Amp, which is insane on Venusaur, and a Focus Band. But part of me thinks you might be able to swap something out and actually do well with a Slick Spoon on this build. In fact, all I'm thinking about right now as I'm talking about it is trying it right after I'm done recording this video. So there you have it. Slick Spoon is insanely good and it works on many of the special attackers inside Pokemon Unite. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, share it with a friend. If you want to support what I'm doing here, consider becoming a member or just liking, commenting, and subscribing. It helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you all. Yeehaw to you and yours.